Just checking the phone number, the 905-986-0670.
That's Deborah Kieserbrink.
Okay,
can
great.
You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
And I see our chair has joined too. So, so I think we have everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Yep.
Good.
And just since we're going live, just so I throw up our agenda just for everyone's benefit.
All right, thank you, Mark. If everyone is everyone's ready to go.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I'll call the meeting to order, and I'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda if there are no additions.
So moved.
That was
I'll second it.
Oh,
was
yeah.
that Director Huber?
No,
I
Wasn't
can't
me, it
see
was-
everyone, so I need.
Yeah. Sorry, Pat done, Ted.
Okay,
It was Pat.
all right, thanks,
Sorry.
Pat. And
And-
seconded by.
Deborah Kieserbrink.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Motion is carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Hearing none. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes from our last meeting.
I'll give you a
Do I
motion.
have a
Richard.
motion to
That was me,
approve
Ken.
minutes from Councillor Hooper. Thank you. Seconded by Director Moore. Is there any discussion? Is there anyone opposed to that motion? Hearing none, I will declare it carried. Thank you. Is there any business arising from the minutes that that will not be covered later in the agenda? Hearing none, thank you. We have no deputations. We have a presentation now on the Ontario Low Water Program, and welcome Emma Collier to the meeting. And Emma's a Director of Integrated Watershed Management. And Emma, I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Ted. So through the chair, apologies, I'm on my cell phone. So the low water programme is really a programme that doesn't get much attention typically until there's a problem which is accumulated over several months. So this programme, if you're not familiar with it, is managed by Kawartha Conservation on behalf of all the municipalities that we serve. It's a partnership between us and the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. And we have conservation authorities have delegated responsibility for programme delivery within the watersheds that we serve. So we don't receive any regular funding for this programme, but in the past grants have been available to help subsidise, but those aren't available at the moment. So 2020 posed some unique challenges for us in delivering this programme. We had, because of the pandemic, obviously, we had much reduced resources to assist us with delivering this. It was obviously the first time we had to deliver this virtually with the group that we were working with as well. And just generally trying to gather people together was particularly challenging over that period. So Irina, I'm going to pass over to you at this point, and she will take you through just an overview of the 2020 situation and some of the activities that we undertook over that period. So thank you very much. Over to Irina.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Emma, for your introductions. I will take you a little bit through the program. Well, I will explain how program works overall, and I will definitely talk about what happened this year. So the program was developed back in 2002 in response to the drought, severe drought that happened in Ontario in 1999-2001. And the program is designated to assist in coordination and support for local responses in the event of drought. The Ontario Low Water Response Program is not a disaster relief or the emergency plan. It's a program that would coordinate and help local response. There is no specific legislation for this program. It's all based on the existing legislation and local regulations, and it's built on the relationship that is developed, like that existing relationship between the province and the local levels of government. So under the Ontario Low Water Response Program, the drought is defined as one or the combination of the few factors from the following. The low precipitations, at least for 3 months. The low stream flow, that is below the lowest monthly threshold. Low groundwater levels or dry water wells, reported dry water wells. And the socio-economical effect that caused by the low water conditions and that affects the local residents. So this set of specific indicators was developed for this program, and depending on the severity of the situation and depending on these indicators, we defined 3 levels. The level 1 of low water conditions, it's a warning level. It's kind of like something can happen. Level 2 indicates a potentially serious problem, and it means more pushing more restrictions on non-essential use and promoting conservation measures.
Excuse me,
And level.
Can I just double check something? Just make sure that everyone's seeing what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the non-presentation view of the slides. So
you
just
don't see the presentation? Oh, I'm sorry.
Another screen, perhaps.
I see only the title page. I haven't seen anything change.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay, what are you doing here? Do you see it now?
No, still see the same view.
Okay. What is new share? What
There we
about
go.
this?
Yep, that looks perfect.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, well, yeah, this is slides. The slides say what I said, pretty much. So just scary pictures. This is actually pictures from our watershed, historical pictures, not necessarily the fresh one. This picture is from 2020. So here is our conditions levels chart. So level 1, warning level. Level 2, it means something already happening. And level 3 means severe drought. And the indicator that water supply does not meet water demand. So on this level, the focus is on regulation and enforcement wherever possible under existing legislation. The main tool in this program, as described, is the water response teams. Water response teams are watershed-based bodies, and they coordinate local activities. The teams consist of local water users users and local and provincial water managers. And using the combination of data, communication techniques, education events, and strategies, the team promotes conservation, water conservation, and public education, and advocate for conservation of general water resources. I will talk about our local water response team a little bit further in the presentation. Oh, yeah, right here. So in the Kawartha Conservation Water Response Team, we have, of course, Kawartha Conservation. We have member municipalities presented on the team, and different departments are presented on our team. Province is represented by reps from ministries, such as Ministry of Environmental Conservation and Parks, Natural Resources and Forestry, AMAFRA, and such. We have a representative from Parks Canada, as Ontario Waterways, as Trans-Saharan Waterway, is extremely important water manager within our watershed. Agricultural sector is represented by OFA, by private farmers, and we also have the City of Kawartha Lakes agricultural officer in our committee. Golf courses are usually represented at our water response team, and in NGOs, some, for example, Lakes Gog Stewards are members of our team. How program works overall? Kawartha Conservation, us, we do monitoring year round, and we assess conditions comparing them to indicators. When low water response, low water or drought detected, we would, Kawartha Conservation would declare the level 1 of low water conditions, and we initiate the water response team. We call together the water response team. The water response team gets together, discuss and develops course of actions, and working on implementation of those actions. So Kawartha Conservation at this stage, we do enhanced monitoring. We bring as much data as possible, and we do it more frequent than just once a month. And we usually heavily involved into implementation. We do the communication, education, and events. When conditions improve, the level of water, level of low water usually removed, and we return to normal conditions. And under normal conditions, we continue monitoring. So cycle continues. What happened in this year? What happened in summer 2020? We observed very early spring freshet. That was interesting, like exactly months early spring freshet. So by May, the watershed was pretty much dry, and we received below normal precipitation in May. Speaking of precipitation, this year was interesting because the same year we saw the record-breaking precipitation, for example, in January, and we saw extremely level precipitation in June. So the May, June, July, that was period of low precipitation, and on top of that, we had excellent summer, very warm summer, like, for example, 3.9 degrees Celsius above the average temperature for Peterborough for July. That is very, like, it's another record-breaking value. And of course, increased evaporation and water demand, both natural and human, that meant increased water consumption as well. So under these circumstances, Ontario low water response was activated. Okay, here is just a slide to demonstrate the 3 months precipitation indicators as per our program. So the green levels, it's normal. The red is level 3, that means severe drought. So June, July, we were very close to severe drought conditions. And yes, groundwater went low, not necessarily as low as we've seen them before, but they were at the low values. So in 2020, overall, the low water conditions were declared for about 4 months for our Kawartha Conservation Watershed, for our watershed. On July 6th, based on the precipitation and the flow indexes, we declared, Kawartha Conservation declared the level 1 of low water conditions, and we initiated the water response team. The team met on July 16th. That was a very quick turnaround, talk about it later. And the level 2 was declared right away because conditions were right for level 2 of low water response. So we developed some actions that included communication, media releases, providing resources on our corporate website, sharing resources through the social medias, working with our partners on signage. So again, heavily involved on communication and promotion of water conservation. On September 16th, conditions improved and water response team downgraded level of low water to level 1, and we returned to normal conditions as of October 30th. So I already mentioned our activities. I believe I did not forget everything. We worked pretty much the same idea, basing on communication and education. However, because 2020 is a little bit different, it was a little bit different for this program as well. First of all, the virtual meetings. There are pros and cons in it. Pros, the very quick response time. Like, it's great. In a week, we were able to get the team together. However, I've noticed, I've been working with the program, I've been working for a long time. I've noticed that the audience is less engaged into discussion through the virtual meetings. I'm not sure if it's about this program only or it's overall. The same, we had difficulties in bringing to the team local water users. Again, I believe because for some, it wasn't the most pressing challenge at this particular time. So the year was unique. So, for example, we lost golf course representative. We weren't able to bring the golf course community to the table. And tourism industry, we didn't have anybody, because we used to have somebody from local marina or like cottage association. No, we weren't able to bring anybody to the table from local businesses. We also limited in our actions as pandemic situation prevents face-to-face events, but virtual events, virtual public events in summertime, we don't think it was a good idea at that time. So that we talked to our partner conservation authorities to see what they experienced through this year. and just to share and to compare our experience, and it was pretty much very similar experience for all of us. To start with, not all called the water response teams together. Some opted just for declaring water levels and continue declaring water levels just by conservation authorities without involving the team and just keeping team informed. All conservation authorities that we talked to nine partners, they were doing communication through media releases and social media and web pages, and keeping public informed. That is major activities. And so some of those, and engagement level not as high as it used to be, as we've seen before, was also noticed. So we will continue to adjust the program to the situation. We will continue with this program when condition warrants, and we will evaluate it again in future. So that's pretty much. You know what else I would like to add with regards to the water response team? Some conservation authorities do not run water response team. They are rather part of the water response teams that are run by municipalities. For example, your Peel region and York region, I believe, they do have run their own water response team, and conservation authorities are part of those water response team. This is a little bit of different with our neighbors. And yes, that's it for the water response. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, through the chair.
Thank you, Irina. Before we go to questions, I would like to ask for a motion to that the presentation on this program be received.
Director Kiesebrink, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Director Kiesebrink. Seconder, please.
Director Dunn?
Director Dunn, is there anyone opposed to that? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Are there questions to either Irina or Emma?
Director Kiesebrink?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just wanted to say thank you for your report. I imagine it was difficult to have the same contact with people regarding the low water conditions this year, given the pandemic. So I'm glad that we finally ended up being back in a level place. It took a while this year. So thank you for that report, and thank you for the monitoring, because it is very important that people know what's happening with our watershed and that we work together to make sure it stays maintained. I just appreciate that work and appreciate your report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other questions? A question that I would ask regarding the public engagement, whether it be this year or other years. First of all, am I echoing through someone? Maybe there's a few too many that aren't muted, but how is the response in general being from the public when it's advocated that they don't water their lawns or they don't wash their cars, and do people pay any attention, or do enough of them pay attention?
So through the chair, if I could answer that one, I think we get mixed responses. I know I follow some of our social media quite closely, and some people are quite happy to change behaviours if they're tuned into this and they're very focused on the environment and protecting the environment in particular and their own water supplies. I think there's still an expectation perhaps that water should just be available for them all the time and they shouldn't have to change behaviours as well. So I have seen postings along those lines and across other conservation authorities as well. So I think there's a bit of education, perhaps, that we still need to keep instilling. And again, working with our municipal partners on that and providing consistent messaging around why it's important to conserve water when we're in those kind of very, very low water periods. So I think people are very conscious when, for example, they have their own wells. You know, if that dries up, they're really struggling. But if you're tapped into a municipal supply, for example, the expectation is the tap continues to turn on and water is available for them no matter what, and that we can just ship water in from somewhere else if there's a problem as well. So I think it depends how conscious you are of water generally, and your own personal circumstance. But yeah, there's certainly mixed messages.
All right, thank you. I sit on the Works Committee at the Region of Durham, and this has never been proposed, but do you know, are there any municipalities that have ever considered raising their water costs, water rates during a drought to discourage use?
Okay, I have not come across such information. No, I don't know.
That would probably not be a very popular decision, but people seem to have the expectation that their lawns have to look like golf courses, and that seems to be the mindset of a lot of people. But anyway, are there any further questions? Hearing none, thank you very much for your presentation, Irina and Emma, and appreciate the information.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is the consent items. There are items on the consent agenda. I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, and then I'll ask if there are polls. I have a motion then to approve the consent agenda.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Chair. Councillor Hooper. I'll give you that motion.
All right, thank you, Director Hooper. I'm getting a message here that my internet connection is a little unstable, so I hope I can stick around. Do I have a seconder for that, please?
Director Ross.
I'm not hearing anyone. I don't know whether anyone's hearing me or not.
Director Ross said he would second it, Mr. Chair.
I don't think Mr. Chair is hearing us.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes.
Are there polls on the consent agenda? I'm not hearing anyone. All those in favor then of the consent agenda? You'll have to speak up on that, I think, please.
In favor?
It's Kathleen, I'm in favor.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Moore, favor.
Councillor Hooper in favor.
Deborah in favor.
Good, thank you. The motion is carried. And next on the agenda are the action items. And
Oh, Mr. Chair, it's Councillor Kiesebrink. I'm so sorry. I should have pulled 7.7. If I could.
Sure, go ahead.
No, we already. I just wanted to ask our CAO about the letter from the Conservation Ontario regarding the major streamlining and cost concerns with Bill 229. I know our Scugog Mayor Drew brought this forward to our last council meeting on Monday. and we endorsed it because there's some really significant concerns expressed to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Minister of Environment, Finance, and our Premier, more specifically because of provincial changes that will create more costs and delays and red tape around permit and planning applications and appeals, as it very clearly states in this letter from the chair, from Wayne Emerson. I'm just wondering, is there anything that we can do as your board to support you? Has this already been endorsed previously, and I'm just not remembering it? Is there anything that you need us to do, Mr. Chair, on this regard? It seems quite alarming to me, and I understand that it's already sort of partway in process, so now's the time to express concern.
Certainly, I agree with you on that, and I think that's going to be covered under, essentially under 8.2, under the,
okay.
I believe, and so if that's
correct. It's under an action item as well. I was just confused because it's listed in correspondence, so I just wasn't sure, sir. Thank you.
All right, we'll do that under 8.2.
Great.
Next then is 8.1, and regarding First Nation board representation. And the recommended resolution is resolved that an offer be extended to the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation for an ex officio position on the board of directors, and that the administrative bylaw number 1 be updated to reflect the ex officio position. Could I have a motion regarding that to get it on the floor, please?
I'll give you that
Director
motion.
Keesbrink?
Sorry. Go ahead, Director Keesbrink.
Keesbrink, and seconded by Director Hooper.
That's right. Thank you.
Is there?
Councillor Angus, maybe he wants to do it.
No, that's fine. Is there any discussion on this motion?
Director Keesbrink?
Go ahead.
I really appreciate this report and I appreciate the research that's been done. It's interesting that right across the various conservation authorities that it's been identified as a gap in the governance model, and that there are collaborative things happening, such as what's happening in the Niagara area, but not a specific voting scenario as such. I think this is a good step, and I think that Chief Larocco would regard it as a move forward, just to be consulted and be an ex officio. I'm sure that she would prefer a voting position, but I think because it's not being done, it might not hurt to put a toe in the water rather than jumping in fully, just so that we can understand what the impacts of having this dynamic in place. I would love to hear what other people think. Those are just my own cursory thoughts, but I'd really value your opinion on this.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else have anything to say regarding this?
Director Ross, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Certainly.
I'd like to just echo Councillor Keesbrink's comments. She's far more eloquent than I am, but no, absolutely. I look forward to this, and I think it is a step in the right direction. I think just to Councillor Keesbrink's point, I do think we need to move slowly, but this is a good step in that, a toe in the water is a great example of how we're moving ahead with this, and we'll see how it evolves going forward. So thank you for your work on this.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Ms. Mrahowski?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can talk about a few points related to this. I agree it's a great opportunity for our board. It is groundbreaking as well, since we will be the first conservation authority in the province to actually look at a position like this on our board, directly on our board. As Director Keesbrink mentioned, Niagara Peninsula is the only other authority that has something similar, but they sit on a public advisory board to the board. So not actually on their board. And I should note that this report actually did get circulated in advance to the Mississaugas of First Nation community liaison, and I know the chief had an opportunity to look at the staff report as well. So they are aware of this. I know that their intention is to be able to speak to anything that might be of interest to their interests, and we did, as you see, non-voting. That is also within the board's control. When we look at updating the bylaw, there is an opportunity to have a voting or a non-voting kind of role. So that is ultimately in your hands. And I think, as I mentioned, it's just a great opportunity to build some strong ties with our First Nations. So I think we'll have a bit of work to do to modernize our own kind of internal processes in order to align with some of the advancements that you see in maybe some other areas, recognizing First Nations, for instance, at our meetings as an example. But I think those are maybe some good things as well for us to do. And look forward to this opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to make a comment. Councillor Hooper.
Certainly. Go ahead.
I just like the nice segue into what I wanted to say too in regards to Mr. Machowski's comments. We have a new committee that's been formed since I've been on this term of council, diversity committee, and we consulted with the group out in Port Perry. Dave, I can't remember the fellow's name, who is the chief now. We consulted with him in regards to our land acknowledgement statement, and they were most pleased of the fact that we at least recognized, and asked their opinion before we actually went out and tried to figure out how to, acknowledge and we actually took their input and they put it into our land acknowledgement statement. So I think it behooves us to sort of, ex officio, I get it, that's good. I mean, just so that they're there and they're being informed and they understand how things are working. So thank you, Director Kiesebrink, for bringing that forward.
Great, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, and I too agree with it. I think it's a good move in the right direction, and the right move to, as so aptly put, a toe in the water. And in Brock as well, we already do a recognition at Durham, and in Brock as well, we are looking at a way of recognition before each of our meetings of the Indigenous history, and we are consulting with the local groups as well. So if there's no further discussion, is there anyone opposed to the motion? Hearing none, I'll declare the motion carried. Thank you. Next item is 8.2, the Conservation Authorities Act proposed amendments, and it has a very long resolution that I don't think I'm going to read. Could I have a motion then to approve the recommended resolution?
Yes, Mr. Chair, before we do that, did you want me to talk to the revised resolution that I put forward to you? It ties in with what some of the other municipalities are doing, and some of the other authorities, which is asking for an opportunity to review the act, asking the province to repeal, but in a nicer word, to consider removing the Schedule 6 from the current bill in order to allow for that discussion to occur. If you want, I can throw up that resolution for everyone.
Yes, please, go ahead. Could you put it up on the screen now?
Sorry, I just have to find it here in my, there we go. I didn't have too many windows open. There we go. So this is, so it's the same resolution, and this is the one piece that is added in, which is request of the Government of Ontario remove Schedule 6 from Bill 229. So that is the proposed amendment.
Thank you, and that is exactly what passed today at the Region of Durham Council in support of that request. Could I have a motion then to approve the recommended resolution as revised?
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to
I'm not
to,
hearing anyone. Is anyone hearing me?
first or second, wherever we were. I can hear you now. You cut out for a second. Can you hear me?
I will
Hello?
second it if he can hear you.
I'll stop the screen share just to reduce bandwidth.
Thank you. That was moved by Director Kieserbrink. Can I have a seconder, please?
Mr. Chair, I second it. Councillor Hooper.
You're on mute there, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Every once in a while, I seem to cut out of the meeting, and then when I come back on, I'm on mute, which maybe tells me a lot. But so sorry, I got a motion to approve by Councillor Kieserbrink, and can I have a seconder, please?
By Councillor Hooper, sir.
I did second. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Director Hooper, apologies.
That's okay. Don't worry.
Is there discussion on this motion?
Director Kieserbrink, if I could.
Yes.
I just want to thank I'm not sure who did all this work. I'm assuming our CAO and I'm sure lots of people at the office as well, but this is an extremely detailed response, literally section by section. I just greatly appreciate the work that's gone into this. I really hope that it gets fully reviewed when it's submitted, because it's very productive response, and hopefully they really listen.
I would agree with
Mr.
that.
CAO.
All right. Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
I would just give me a comment if I can, Mr. Chair. I
Yes.
agree with Director Kieserbrink. There's been a lot of discussion, both in the media and most of the newspapers, and it's been a very hot topic right at the present time, and essentially gutting the CAs. And I just think this is a great motion. I sit on the Central Lake Conservation Area as a vice chair, and the motion is very similar coming forward in regards to that too. So and this goes right along with the MZOs that the province is sort of issuing nilly-willy. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Chair Letham. Got a comment?
I do. Thank you. I got a couple of comments, and at the risk of disagreeing with some of the previous comments, I can't support this motion in its current form. I know, I know this is coming. Conservation Ontario, who, in my opinion, seem to sometimes be against any kind of change that comes forward. So I go through this note from Conservation Authority, and you know what? Change is inevitable. We're going to have to change. I don't agree with the way this all came about. So, there could have been more, but at the end of the day, you're asking this to go back and be reviewed and start over again and have consultations. And everybody knows if we do that, nothing will ever change. So whether it should change or not is a different argument. So if you'll just bear with me for a moment. I go through this, and we're asking them to review almost everything in this bill. And, when I look through it, the municipalities will no longer be able to appoint a member of the public, and municipal councillor rather than municipally elected official may exclude mayors. I'm like, really? Like, councils always include mayors. So some of the comments, and this is not with the motion, this is more coming from Conservation Authority, or, not agreeing that a farmer should be on the conservation board. Maybe that's not what they're saying, it's how it's appointed. But at the end of the day, really, agriculture is most of our biggest industries. And we don't think a farmer should be, an agricultural person should be on the conservation board. What is it we're afraid of that we want to hear from our farmers? To me, we should be representing our community. So this is just an example of some of the things that I'm struggling with. And I guess the other big one I have is where an amendment would require members to act on behalf of their respected municipalities instead of contradicts the fiduciary duty of a board member. It puts an individual municipal interest above the broader watershed interest further to the purpose of the act. Shouldn't our role as a municipal councillor or mayor, should the interest of the municipality be the same as the interest of the conservation authority? I mean, we can represent one, but we can't represent the other. I mean, I'm just going through this and some of these comments make zero sense to me. We're on this board for a reason. We know the good work conservation authorities do. But to start picking things apart where, you got to represent the conservation authority, not your municipality. I'm like, really? Because to me, what we're trying to do here should be in the best interest of both. And then when you get down to some of the appeals process and stuff, and we talk about red tape, delaying the permit process, if somebody appeals to the board or to the minister, and I guess I gotta, it's not delaying it. The only thing it's delaying is the developer who wants to keep appealing it. I mean, and the time I've been on the board, we haven't had one hearing. We're making good decisions. Maybe this is more significant in other conservation authorities, but if some developer comes forward and wants to do some proposal that our conservation authority doesn't agree with, and they appeal it to the board and we have a hearing and we disagree with it as a board, do we really care if it's more red tape or cost to them or it delays their process? We don't want it done anyways. I recognize that at some point down the road, the minister might step in and say, yeah, we agree, go ahead and do this. But, which I know is out of the control at some point. But when we talk about delays, it's not really our delays. It's a delay of something that we don't want to happen anyway. So in my opinion, delay away, delay it as long as you can, because our conservation authority doesn't agree with it. Neither does our board. So why wouldn't we want to delay it? And then when we talk about entering lands and some of the other concerns, we have to be careful. You can't give conservation authorities more powers than a police force. We just need to, dial it back a little bit and say, you know what, I know that we need to do certain things to be able to look after what it is we're trying to do, but we don't have unlimited powers to, this is where many complaints over the years have come into effect on, some either trying to issue a stop order or going onto private property without permission. And maybe it's just, there needs to be, I don't have the answers to that one, but getting a search warrant seems like a pretty reasonable thing to me if we've got a major issue. Drones are available to look at a property now. Do we really have to go onto private property without permission? These are just some of I'm not going to go on, Mr. Chair. These are just some of the concerns that when I read this, jumped out at me. So I can't, I know what Conservation Ontario is trying to do, and I guess that's their role. But at the end of the day, I'm not agreeing with everything the province is saying. I'm just saying that, maybe I'm the middle guy, that somewhere in between, we need to come up with a bit of a better solution than just rejecting. I know you softened the motion a bit, Mark, and I appreciate that, but we can't just reject every single change that comes forward and try to go back to square one because we don't want anything to change. So I won't ramble on any longer, sir, but it's important to me that if when this motion goes through, please make a record that I myself can't support this motion in its current form. And I really don't have any recommendation on how to change it. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Director Dunn?
Yeah, I'm going to partially repeat Director Latham's remarks, but my concern is, and I was just going to not vote against it as opposed to speak against it. My concern is the conservation authorities want to go back to what I call the bad old days, when they were kind of like a school board and they dictated to the municipalities how much you're going to pay, what you're going to do. That was a horrible, horrible, horrible system. And we had to go back and in order to appeal the budgets, we had to go through the Minister of Mines or the Commissioner of Mines for an appeal. It was just a terrible system, and we had councillors that sat on conservation authorities who had that mindset that no, we're the conservation authority and that's more important than the municipality. And if you take a look around the table, none of them sit on this conservation authority from the Kawartha Lakes, because we do have a dual responsibility, and I'm quite capable of wearing two hats. And what is important for the conservation authority, what's important, sorry, I'm going to take that back. What's important for conservation in Kawartha Lakes is important to me. What necessarily is important for a conservation authority because they want to expand their powers. And I'm not suggesting that this one does, but I'm not sure Conservation Ontario doesn't feel that way, is not important to me. For me, it's about conservation. It's about protecting our watershed and those types of things. And that's in lockstep with my responsibilities to the municipality. So I do thank Director Leatham for bringing that up. Because I said I was just simply going to not vote against it because I think it's wrong. But I'm going to add my voice to his.
All right, thank you. Are there any other first-time speakers?
Director Ross, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Certainly, go ahead.
There are many good points. I want to thank Director Dunn and Mr. Letham for bringing that up. And I won't reiterate it, but I think that there is the bill's not perfect, that's for sure. And I think there is this growing way of doing things, in that any change is shut down right away. And for the entire document, there are some things that are good in this and there's some things that are bad, but to shut the entire thing down, I don't think is the right way to go. So thank you for your comments, and I would echo those.
Right. Thank you. There was a very vigorous discussion on this yesterday at the Region of Durham, and the resolution passed. I believe it was 25-3 in favor, in support of this resolution. And in terms of the municipal representation and how it's recommended that we're here for the good of the Conservation Authority, I agree with that. I know that, and that's one of the hardest part of politics, as far as I'm concerned, is that when you're a ward councillor, you're elected by your ward, but you're expected to do what's good for your municipality, not what's good for your ward. And when I sit on the Region of Durham Council, I'm expected to do what's good for the Region of Durham, not what is necessarily good for Brock Township. Hopefully they coincide, but they don't always. And then when I represent Durham at the Kawartha Conservation, I'm supposed to do what's good for the Conservation Authority, not necessarily what's good for Durham. And that's, as I say, hard to do sometimes, but I still think that's personally the way that is the best way for it to happen. Vice Chair mentioned representatives from agriculture. I know, I guess there are a few conservation authorities that have non-municipal representatives on their boards. Part of the concern is that certainly you could have agriculture, but then maybe you should have aggregate groups. Maybe you should have recreational groups in terms of golf course, and it's almost a point of where do you draw the line. It's simpler if it's simply municipal, but and maybe those other groups could be ex officio, but there's arguments to be made on both sides of that. So I'm going to support it. I see Mr. Mahowski has his hand up. I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you. Thank you. I know this is a difficult kind of subject matter to work with, and I can let you know some of the conversations that I've been involved in related to this bill, and specifically section Schedule 6. And I think one of the things that is clear is that as conservation authorities, we're all expecting change. We know that change is going to occur, and you know, when looking at this act, I think really the key thing that we're looking at is, you know, from what I hear from the conversations, is there just probably isn't enough time to actually make those changes and have the discussions. Since, as you know, this is a new portfolio for this ministry, and they don't understand how everything works. So some of the mechanics and behind the wording just don't facilitate what would be required to make it work. So that's what a lot of the concern is related to this, and that's why the buying more time is really what the ask is, and be able to have some consultations. So as part of the amendments, the only amendments that really have been touched on in the report are actually the revised amendments, not the previous ones. So there's some good things in the act. There's some listening that occurred as well with the province on a couple of items. So increased fines, for instance, is one that is something that we've been interested in, because for $10,000 for an offense, someone can write that into their business expense, you know, for some of these large projects. So that's what we were seeing, you know, across the landscape. We're well understanding that in repealing this or asking them to think about it a little bit longer means that some of those pieces will wait a little bit longer as well. We don't currently have stop work orders, so that's something that we don't have. We have a notification that someone is committing an offense, and so that doesn't stop the activity. So having an additional toolkit might prevent some of the court costs, and those court costs are just expensive on our end, which I think we've seen as well through a couple of cases. So our I would say the ask really is to give a little bit of time to think about some of these changes and actually work through, because there has actually been no consultation on the actual wording through Conservation Ontario or through any of the individual 36 CAs. So the consultation that was had was very broad in general. It was more of a hi, how are you, get to know you kind of consultation. What are your concerns, but not how to address them and what is the solution. So we're just asking for advice, you know, before putting something forward that might not work. Just have the discussion ahead of time to make sure it works before you put it into law. So that really is really the ask. I think all conservation authorities recognize the need that there's some change. We understand the province's desire for accountability. We recognize municipalities' desire for accountability. And I think, as was aptly mentioned, I think by Director Dunn and Vice Chair Latham, is the key to everything is working together. So I think, Mr. Chair, you said that as well. So I think that's really the key item is working together, and that involves all three parties working together. So that's just what I'll mention in terms of some background to this report.
Director Keith-Spring, could I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead.
The summary of this report on page 11 basically kind of summarizes everything in a nutshell, and it just says that let's see here. There's been no public commenting period for these changes. However, the aim is for the province to consider input at this stage before the Act receives royal assent. There are several proposed provisions, and staff have identified concerns. Many of the amendments have concerns. So basically, in a nutshell, it's just saying, look, there hasn't been public commenting. We're just asking the province consider this input. I mean, really you could just take out all the lines that say no concern. You could just take them out because it's just more reading. And if you just leave in only the pieces that where there are concerns expressed, that would significantly shorten the pages that follow your summary. But I mean, I don't think there's any harm in asking them to review your concerns. The thing that concerns me about the appeals, not that people be allowed to appeal, it's the fact that the Conservation Authority is taken out of the appeal process in this bill. So what then becomes the issue is that the Conservation Authority are the scientists, they're the people that have been given, that have been tasked and have the knowledge and the training and have made decisions based on that training. But then in the appeal, they're no longer involved in the appeal. And that seems odd to me. Like, why would there be an appeal and then they're just not there anymore? They're not a part of it. They're not even given opportunity to defend their position and why they made that statement. It just becomes the decision. The outcome becomes a decision of an entity who's not been involved to that point. I've never heard of adjudication process where the two parties aren't privy to restate their case. So that's partly what alarms me about how this reads. I mean, we've entrusted our CAO with his job. He's come forward to us with these concerns. Ultimately, they're going to do what they're going to do, but I would like to give him the opportunity to articulate those concerns as a board. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Yesterday at Durham, it's funny, the ones that objected or didn't go along tended to use the phrase in the recommended wording from the government in the new bill was that all conservation authorities should follow generally accepted accounting procedures. Well, and all three of the ones who opposed this resolution yesterday said that they were surprised that conservation authorities didn't do that, and they thought it was a good idea if they did. They were assured strongly by myself as chair of Kawartha and Bob Chapman as chair of CLOCA and others who sit on other boards that all 36 conservation authorities do that, but they still voted against it anyway. And I found that very upsetting that the province would insinuate when they know, and we are required to follow general accounting procedures and have outside bodies do our audits, that the insinuation is there that we don't do it, and it causes mistrust. So that one bothered me. So anyway, if there's no further discussion, I'll call for a recorded vote if we could, please, on this. And we haven't done very many of these at Kawartha in my time on here, so is Ms. Dollamore able to do it, or do you do it, Mark? Or you're muted, Mark.
There we go. Sorry. Yep, we're just getting aligned here, and we're getting ready for that recorded vote. And we'll call out each director by their last surname in alphabetical order, ending with the chair. So with that, Melanie will call out each member, each director of the authority. I'm buying a little bit of time here if you can't tell. And so with that, everybody in order. We're just making sure everyone's in order here. I believe it should be Director Dunn first.
Opposed?
And next up, Director Hooper. Director Hooper,
He's muted.
you're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Yes, I'm in support of.
Director Kiesebrink,
In favor.
and then it would be Vice Chair Latham,
Opposed?
Director Moore,
Opposed.
Director Ross,
Opposed.
Director Seymour Fagan,
Opposed. Opposed.
thank you. Chair Smith,
I'm in favor.
and Director Windower.
He's muted.
Sorry, Director Windover, you're muted there.
Opposed?
That's everyone.
So, Mr. Chair, that is 3 for the resolution, and the remainder 6 are opposed, so the motion fails.
All right, thank you. The motion fails. Be interesting to know how many conservation authorities oppose this, but time will tell on that. Is there any other motion that you want to bring forward regarding this?
Mr. Chair, it's the Vice Chair. I'll give you a motion that the report be received.
All right, with no replacement motion at all?
Just that it be received at this point.
All right, thank you. We have a motion from Vice Chair Latham that it be received. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Dr. Wendover? Anyone opposed to that motion? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the bylaw number 2 hearing guidelines update. And to recommend a resolution is that the amendments to bylaw number 2 hearing guidelines to enable electronic hearings be approved and adopted for use effective December the 1st, 2020. Can I have a motion regarding that, please? Director Dunn moves it. Have a seconder, please. Director Moore. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Is there anyone in opposition to that? Hearing no opposition, I'll declare it carried. Next then is 8.4. I just have to find it here in my agenda.
Mr. Chair, could I just ask a question regarding, could I ask a question?
I think you just did. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm just wondering, because this bill has appointment of entities and it's sort of in process, if it gets passed, will it make our designation of First Nation representation, because that's not mentioned in this bill? It talks about councillors and an appointed agricultural representative from the ministry. And I believe it takes away the ability of the board to name its entities. So does it negate our ex officio position? And if it does, I just don't want to start something that will be stopped shortly and could become a point of offense when we're just trying to reach out and build a relationship with our First Nations community. So I'm wondering if that has an impact on the earlier motion at all. And I would defer to those of you who have more experience than I in this process.
That's a good question. Mr. Mahowski, do you have any opinions on that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Director Kiesebrink, for the question. I have been thinking about that as well. I don't believe it would limit in any way our ability to do this. That is within the power of the board to do this. What the Act, if passed, what it does is enable for the minister to appoint someone. Quite frankly, what it might actually do is provide a set of rules for such appointments. In that if there's an agricultural member that can become a member of the board, I assume that there'd be regulations that would also accompany that with some guidance in terms of how to handle that. So it could actually result in some streamlining.
So we should be okay to proceed then, and let them, like, will you let them know then that they are welcome to provide someone for the ex officio for the board, and we should be okay to proceed even if this bill passes and gets royal assent?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's exactly what happened. I would actually, since this is a pretty big board item, what I would see is that I would actually draft a letter for Ted to sign and offer it through that way, so that it has a little bit more weight to it. And I think in terms of process, I think the key thing is that we update our bylaw before the member comes on board. So to me, just in terms of making sure that the process is aligned, that would be the way I would look at it. Approve the rules for that ex officio position first, and then bring them on from there. Allow them a little bit of time to decide who the member is.
Very good point. Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is 8.4 regarding the 2021 draft budget, and recommend a resolution as a result of the draft 2021 budget proceed as provided, and information for municipal partners be developed for approval to circulate to the member municipalities at the December 17th, 2020 Board of Directors meeting. Could I have a motion regarding that to bring it onto the floor? Mr. Mahowski, you have something you want to say first?
Yes, if you would indulge me, I would appreciate that. I just wanted to bring to the board's attention that there was an error in the staff report. I just wanted to put that out up front right at the very beginning, just so you know what you're dealing with. And what I'll do is I'll just maybe share my screen just so you're all aware of it before you make that motion. And first off, I'd just like to thank Wanda and our directors for working on this budget. This was a very difficult budget for us to put together with a lot of unknowns, but I thank everyone for the guidance at the last board of directors meeting. That really helped us produce a budget that we're pretty proud of, and I think that makes sense for everyone. We did have the late minute addition of Lake Dalrymple to the special projects consideration for the board to look at. So given it was a late addition, some of the numbers we weren't able to, it didn't translate across all the spreadsheets that we have that make up our budget. It's an Excel document, so as you can imagine, it has you have to make sure all the references fit each other. So what I'll do is I will just share this because the margins are a little bit tighter than what they appear in the meeting report. So this is the right one here. So you can see here it starts out with I'm gonna have to minimize something here. Right, so you see the general benefiting projects remain the same. There's a change to the special benefiting levy. as a result of that change, which translates into the budget. It actually, the numbers are a little bit different, and I think one of these are actually increases as well. If I look at these brackets here are actually they're not decreases, they're increases. So it'd be an increase of 50,000, increase of 663 and 446. So part of that is apportionment difference. A large portion of that is for any of the municipalities without special projects. That is that increase along with the 2.5. But for the city of Kawartha Lake specifically, we're still looking at a decrease, but it does. You can see it's less than what was identified previously. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that before making that motion. So.
Mr. Chair, it's Andy. Can I ask a question just while we're on that special project?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Mark, I'm a little confused with the Dalrymple. I know this is a special project, but we have no mandate from our council to include this. We just brought this forward to get some costing for either this year or future years. I'm concerned it's in the budget. I know it's a special project, and if we approve this, we don't have our operating budget till March this year. So if council decides we're not moving forward with this, and I'm going to assume they are going to say that because we have some extreme operating pressures this year. And when this came up as a decision unit, there wasn't a whole lot of discussion about moving it forward. It was just about getting the costs. And I'm just wondering, when you're including it in the budget, and I know you've got it in here and such, but are we getting ahead of ourselves? I wonder if we're a year too early as far as let's get a mandate from our council at City of Kawartha Lakes, and then we can give direction to include that now that we have the costs in perhaps the 2022 special projects budget moving forward. Can you just comment on that? Because I don't want you to put this out to the municipalities and then all of a sudden in March our council says, nope, we're not going to do that right now.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lethem. It's a very, very good point. If the city is not willing to move forward with it, that certainly would impact the budget, and I would recommend taking it out. Maybe it's an option for the city to consider versus moving forward, but it certainly would have to. I would say there's another time for the board to look at this, and so if Dalrymple is not a project that would go forward, we would have to update the numbers and make sure that is in the updated text for the board to work with. But as Vice Chair mentions, going forward in 2021, if it comes online at that point in time, we can incorporate it at that point. So really, it's a municipal decision to include or not, and we're at the pleasure of the municipality on that.
Yeah, no, and I don't want to thanks for that, Mark. I don't want you to misunderstand me. I'm not speaking for council because this hasn't come to a vote and we've decided one way or the other. All I'm saying is, we're going to have an operating budget discussion at the end of March when our budget's passed, which this will be a part of. And if at that time you've already forwarded this budget, to all the municipalities and got approval, and then we decide we don't want to do it as a city, that is one of our decision units to deal with at that time. Does that screw up the rest of the budget? And would you be better off removing it at this point? And then if we decide, I'll bring it forward as a decision unit at operating. And if the municipality wants to go ahead, then perhaps it's easier just from a budget perspective to add it in after than it is to try and take it out.
Thank you. Maybe what I'll do is I'll turn it over to Wanda, since she's very familiar with how everything kind of fits together and what impact it might have. What I can say is that we've allocated within our staff allotment, so we know it can work. And ultimately, if we add it in before or after, it's kind of like the horse and the cart argument. Some things kind of work one way and don't work the other way, and vice versa. So understand it's one of those complicated processes that have to work out. But I'll turn it over to Wanda just to provide additional perspective on that.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Mark, all I see is the chart. Is that what I'm supposed to still see? Is that? So at any rate, to answer the mayor's question, we can put this in later too. So the impact on the budget and the operating aspect of that isn't significant. The last minute addition is because there was adequate deferred revenue from the city of Kawartha Lakes that this could be initiated without additional levy to the municipality. So from our last meeting in October, we sensed that there was an interest in this, and so we've integrated it in, but happy to include it later into the budget as per the direction of the city of Kawartha Lakes, as they're the full funders of that project.
No, thank you for that. And again, I'm not, this hasn't come to our council, so I'm just sort of speaking. I just don't want to put you in a tough position where come March we pull it out because we possibly don't want to do it. And are you depending on that from a staffing perspective? And we don't have a mandate from our council. So I don't know, maybe, I would say it might be easier from our perspective and maybe yours to pull it out right now. And then we can always add it in later on. And I'm certainly happy to bring it forward to see if council wants to proceed with it. But we just don't have that mandate right now. So I don't want to put you in a difficult position come the end of March.
No, I've redone this budget several times. It's okay. I can do it again. I'm okay with that. And, it can be modified to be able to accommodate what workloads we will have 3 months, 6 months from now. And, it might be a reduction in the achievements or the deliverables for 2021. But that's not a problem. And we do have a number of other grants, the large programs that we've applied for significant sums of money. And so, our resources might be distracted to those projects into the future. Those aren't recorded either because they're not confirmed at this time. So if there's any consideration that this might not be confirmed, I appreciate that I pull a budget together that is more conservative than it is hearsay, a nice projection.
Yep, thank you.
And I certainly appreciate your perspective. I want to call you Mayor Lethem all the time.
I do it. I do.
Lethem, because it is an important point. There's a number of kind of uncertainties, I think you can say, as we kind of move forward with everything in general. So sometimes the gift of a little more time is appreciated as well. There is one other project that is not recorded in here, just because we're kind of working through some of the pieces. A couple of grants were mentioned by Wanda there, but there's also a request that we're planning on for the region of Durham, the Lake Ski Dog Enhancement Plan. And so we're just going through some of the mechanics of that, just to make sure we're not going to goes back to accounting rules. We already work with them, so we don't want to put ourselves in a position where the accounting rules might be questioned. So we need to pass something through our auditor, and maybe at that point we'll be able to have something. But it is a fairly large request. It's a $2.5 million request to the region of Durham. So just to let everyone know that is something that we're also looking at for that Durham region submission.
All right, thank you. We've had quite a bit of preamble. Let's get back to the recommended resolution. I don't believe I got a motion on that to bring it to the floor. Could I have a motion then on the resolution? I think I read it out earlier. Have a motion on that, please.
Director Kieserbrink, I'll make that motion.
Right. Thank you, Director Kieserbrink. Do we have a seconder?
Director Ross.
Director Ross.
Mr. Chair, based on that comment, should it be as amended? Would that be a value to add to the motion as we've?
Yes, as revised, maybe.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, yes,
sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, just point of clarification on the resolution that actually got the wrong one here. I just want to just double check. Okay, yes, that is great. Sorry, I was looking at the October budget resolution and it had something worked in there for discussion. So as amended, works perfectly.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Is there any further discussion then on the budget?
Oh, just so I get clear in my mind, what is the actual amendment? We're going to remove the project?
Yeah, the Lake Del Ripple project.
Okay, so should that be in the amendment?
I guess it could be.
I'm just, you know, reword it so it you know, it could be at some point in the future or something. I don't know.
We can say something along the, I haven't got the wording here, but something along the lines is as amended to update the special projects request for the city of Kawartha Lakes.
Perfect. That works for me. Thank you.
Is that okay then with you, Directors Kieserbrink and Ross?
Absolutely.
Director Ross, you're in agreement?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question about the budget, or are we still discussing it further after this motion, or?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. I noticed that we are reducing consulting costs because of IT consulting costs, and have added someone with the net cost being $65,000. I'm not sure if it would be best for Wanda or Mark, but could someone just tell us a little bit about that, that human resource change, please?
I can certainly start with that for you, Mr. Chair, and Wanda can certainly add some pieces there. What we've noticed, especially with the remote workforce, and even before that, is that IT and IMS is certainly one of those areas that create efficiencies and workflows and provide more information to people, but we're also finding to make it actually more effective, you have to spend either the time and resources, which we don't currently have in-house, or if you use a consultant, you have to pay a lot of money in order to get to the point where you want to be. So having a dedicated person to be able to actually help manage this, we're cobbling it together realistically to this point, and it's just not really working for us. So this position would draw from what would have been the consultant fees. There'll still be some fees for managing certain aspects of the IT, like virus protection and things of that nature, but it would give us a greater ability to be able to adapt and react to some of our IT challenges that we see. So, and Wanda, I'm not sure if there's anything that you want to add to that as well.
Just other than through you, Mr. Chair, that, you know, it was this position it's extremely critical to the organizational success, as well as security and database management and advancement within the software that we've implemented. Director Kiesenberg also asked about other amounts that we had reduced. So originally in October, we had proposed $10,000 for the strategic plan, but we've had a staff member step up and say that they would take the lead on that. And so we've cut the cost to $5,000. We also had proposed $5,000 for a consulting fee to review our policies, as well as a comprehensive review of our compensation package, another $5,000. We combined those, and we have a process by which we will produce both of those deliverables, and we budgeted $6,500. So those things now fit into the budget. They're in overhead, and the strat plan is in corporate services. So we felt that it was worthwhile to get those things done, and we found alternative ways to achieve it.
Is a new IT person helping with all the digitization of records that's been happening as well?
I think that the IT person would be more likely to develop the processes, policies around that, as well as integrate them into our IMS and into our databases so that they were done the right way. Like I can only do so much. I can get it all done and it's all on a USB stick. Now I don't know what to do. So how do I get it into the systems? So those are all the types of things that we're kind of running out of skill sets for. And many organizations have this type of department in order to protect their hardware, software, and the security.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Welcome.
Just a bit of an anecdotal story too for the board. We had a beaver cut through our fiber optic cable that we rely on, and no one knew what to do. so it took us a while to figure out exactly what was going on. It actually took a little bit of time for our service provider to figure out what was going on as well. But certainly that really impacted, especially working remotely. It's not something that you would anticipate, but having someone to actually be able to handle that would, as an example, be very, very helpful.
Thank you. Is there any other further discussion?
Sorry, if I could, Mr. Chair, just one further question on the prior.
Yes.
So the integration of the permit tracking system that's going into the website with the coding and the all of that, is that going to be part of this new IT person as well, or is that still a third-party website developer that's looking after that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the original consultant within those funds for that tracking. So the e-solutions, the developer of the website, is still being managed for that, and they're going to manage this with Cloca, who provides us services with regards to our IMS system, and work a solution to that. My vision for the IT person or for the new position would be to manage that and ensure that the gates are closed and the gates are open when they should be, and make sure that that is managed and behind the scenes. The implementation, not so much. To bring somebody up to the speed to where we're at now will take some integration and orientation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. If there are no more questions, I will call the question. Is there anyone opposed to the resolution? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, and thank you, Wanda, and the rest of the staff, and Mark, for all your work on the budget. I know it's not easy, and we don't make it any easier for you. So I guess you're used to that. You expect it probably, but thanks for all your work. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You guys are all a great board to work for. So no trouble at all.
All right, thank you. Is there any new business? Hearing none. Do any of the board members have any reports or updates that they would like to give? Director Latham?
Thank you. Just a couple of quick questions, I guess, if you don't mind. Maybe to Mark. I got an email about a National Disaster Mitigation Program, Intake 6, from the Municipal Affairs and Housing, NDMP. 50% federal funding up to a maximum of 1.5 million per project. Just when you're talking about that project with Durham, it came to mind: flood risk assessments, flood mapping, flood mitigation, non-structural flood mitigation projects, municipalities or conservation. Is this a program we traditionally will apply to different special projects across our watershed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes. The National Disaster Mitigation, there's a number of funds that are coming out, and we're just trying to keep pace with it by and large. But the National Disaster Mitigation Program is one geared towards flood risk, and the last. And Ron might be able to help me on this, but the last 4 or 5, maybe 6 of the floodplain mapping studies that were done took advantage of this program. And this was the most recent iteration. So there was some question about whether or not this program will continue into the future. So they just recently announced that it would. As was identified in the budget document, we are working with the County of Haliburton on their study, and we feel that will keep us pretty busy. There are still some outstanding, I would say, floodplain work that that could be done in order to take advantage of this program. So that is something that we're kind of keeping an eye on. Our big question, we've we've identified this to the federal government through a couple of letters is that this fund really would benefit from a longer term perspective, not a they'll roll it over when they decide to, and then we'll have to kind of react to it. So our hope is that that continues over time to allow for some better business planning.
Okay, thank you. And then the only other quick question I had or comment was your January annual meeting, Mr. Chair, conflicts with the council meeting for the city of Kawartha Lakes on that Thursday. We have a Roma conference at the beginning of that week, so we pushed our council meeting to the Thursday. So we've got two conflicting dates there. So I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just advising and yourself, Mark, that that one will be a struggle for the city of Kawartha Lakes to attend. That's all I have. Thanks, folks.
All right, thank you. Is there any other reports or updates? We then discuss a potential change in date for January.
And Mr. Chair, just wondering something as well. We traditionally cancel the December meeting. Just wanted to see if the board wanted to do that. We can go forward with a meeting in December if you want. There's a number of items that are on there. If we don't, I won't be offended, and it might actually help some of the workload pressures that we're seeing as well. So if there's a desire to do that, totally fine with that. But we'd have to reschedule the January meeting. I think that would be a key thing if the city can't make it. That's the meeting where we would traditionally hold the elections for chair and vice chair. So just a point that way. We could defer it. There is some ability in the act to defer those appointments for another meeting if we wanted to, but might just make sense to reschedule. And I think we would still have time. We were still planning on a budget vote in March, so there's plenty of time to circulate.
What about the week ahead of that? We're scheduled for the 28th of January. What if we did it the 21st of January? Is that good for anyone? Is there any problems with anyone on the 21st? I'm not hearing anything. So would that work for staff then, Mark, the 21st?
Well, anyone that's in the room with me is good. Just maybe ask the directors if that date works for everyone there. The other directors, one is good.
It's good for me.
Good for me.
Okay, we're all good. Yep.
All right. Well, why don't we move it ahead a week then to January the 21st? And I don't think that has any negative effect on my retirement pension from the chair position.
Our communication person, John Chambers here, just wanted to verify that it would be a virtual meeting. I think that would probably be appropriate. There are some voting abilities through polling that are anonymous through Zoom, so we shouldn't have any issues that way as well.
All right. Yeah, I think we probably better figure on it being virtual. So as you mentioned earlier, we usually or quite often don't have a December meeting. At this point in time, can we assume that there won't be, or will we wait and see if something comes up? Essentially, how do we leave it that we won't have one unless deemed necessary by the CAO and the chair? Is that all right? If everyone can keep that date open, just in case. That's the 17th of December. And is that okay with you then, Mark?
That works perfectly. Yeah. Realistically, all the board reports would have to be in by next week anyway.
Right.
So we would know if anything kind of like early in the next week. So I don't anticipate there's anything critical that can wait until January.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Is there a need for a closed session? That's good. I'm glad there isn't. If we're done our business, I'll ask then for a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Moved by Director Hooper, seconded by Director Windover. Is there anyone opposed? That's fine. I'll declare that passed, and we are now adjourned. And I'd like to thank everyone for your attendance. And if we don't have a December meeting, have a Merry Christmas. Stay safe.